Hi everyone, it's Kerry Engel here with Creative Scrapbooker magazine and another technique taster. Today I am using the stamps from Art Impressions designed by Krebs. They're part of her watercolor series, and it's the Greenery and Vites collection, and we're using some Oxide inks and some Ranger projects to create this really beautiful, subtle thank you card inspired by my eucalyptus plant. For my card, I used the distressed cracked leather cardstock from Ranger. And one of the things that Bonnie talks about a lot with her watercolor stamps is using watercolor paper. And what happens when you use the watercolor paper, you get a much more softer, flowier, a little more, a looser look, you know, and it's very painterly. When I use the cracked leather cardstock, it's a little crisper, and both looks are fine. I just wanted to show you how these stamps work beautifully on different mediums and the different types of looks we can get. To begin, I've cut myself some squares. I think this one is 1, 2, 3, just slightly over 4 by 4. I'm using the Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station just to adhere it down, just so things don't slide around. And when I'm putting on my sentiment, my thank you, I do double stamp it, so I'm using this station to hold everything down nice and neat. So I have my base done, and what I'm going to do now is build up a few different layers. So right on this base cardstock, I'm going to stamp some leaves directly on this piece of paper, and then I'm going to stamp it again on a separate piece and fussy cut it out to create the layers. Watercolor on top of that, and it's going to all blend in when I put my leaves on top. So it's okay to not be perfect, because that's the beauty of the watercolor look and layering. We can always cover things up, right? So on these little pieces here of the cracked leather, I'm going to just stamp some leaves, and then we're going to fussy cut them out. The next thing we're going to do is paint our leaves, and we're going to use a combination of water and then the smoosh technique using the distress oxides. If you recall, I used distress ink for the thank you, but oxides for everything else. So all I'm going to do is take a bit of water and run it around the edges here. Going to bleed slightly. This paper will not bleed and spread as much as watercolor paper. So for these leaves here, I'm going to make a combination of colors. So all I do is smooch down some of the distress oxides, because I end up sort of blending them and just sort of adding them very randomly throughout. I'm going to put this behind so you can see. Painting them throughout my picture here. So I take water and I have some ink on there already. And first of all, I go around the edges of the leaves just to wet and activate the oxide that's already on my paper, because I stamped it there. Then while it's wet, I'm going to pull in a little bit of the oxide here. And what you're doing is you're letting the ink sort of pool and move and go wherever it wants. And then we can add in, I take this darker color, the ice spruce, and I use that sort of in the shaded areas. So you can see where these leaves overlapped. This one's being overlapped, so I'll take some of the darker and I'll put that on the leaf that's behind. This is my base layer. I'm going to put it to the side and I'm going to work on my leaves now. There, we're done painting. Now we're going to fussy cut these out and lay them on top of our first card. Now before I start working on completing my card, I want to splatter some Oxide inks on the background. We're going to let this dry and then we're going to build our card. So now's the really fun part. After we've been messy and creative, I trimmed off some of my edges of my base, and I'm going to adhere it to some colored cardstock with my Scrapbook Adhesives by 3L. And then you get to figure out, where do I want to place my leaves here? Probably like that. I'm going to lift up 2 of them using some foam strips by Scrapbook Adhesives 3L, and one I'm going to adhere directly onto the base cardstock. To finish off my card, I've put it on a bit of a card base here. I'm going to adhere it here, but I'm going to add a few of these liquid pearls in oyster just randomly around the wreath and on the branches. Gives it a little more dimension and texture, and then I'm going to add a bow. Very painterly, lovely thank you card. So I made the thank you card using the rope and this branch stamp here. I wanted to show you a few other ideas. For this one, I have used that branch on the base, and then I fussy cut out the full wreath. Same technique, just a totally different look. For this one, I stamped this wreath right on the base card and just fussy cut out this corner piece, laid it on top. And then for this one, I used craft colored cardstock and white embossing powder, and did this wreath, stamped it, fussy cut it out, and layered several layers on top. So all kinds of ideas, one stamp, keep you busy for all summer. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give us 2 thumbs up or 1 thumbs up on YouTube, and subscribe to our channel.